Welcome to Straight TV. Thank you for joining me today. I have a question for you. Have you thought about what kind of faith do you have? Has anybody else asked you this before? Have you heard of this before? Well, now you will. Because depending on the faith that you have, it will determine many things in your life. It will determine the capacity you have to withstand a lot of trials and tribulations that we encounter in this life. Depending on the faith that you have, it will determine also the capacity you have to withstand against perils that we may encounter. Depending on the faith we have, will determine how firm we are going to stand against the things we are going to see and hear in this life. Because we are going to see atrocities, yes. We are going to see injustices, yes. We are going to hear about atrocities, yes. So depending on the faith, are you going to stand firm? And don't let that dwindle you. Don't let that move your convictions. Because there are people, you may know people, that saw something in life or heard something in life, and that discouraged them completely. They became judgmental, non-believers, and they refuse to follow the teachings of the Lord. But why? Why do you think this happened? Because it all depends on the faith. There are three types of faiths. Out of those three, there's only one ideal faith. The first one of those three is a primal faith. We are all born with a primal faith. It's a faith that we all have, and we choose to who apply it to what apply it to. We could apply that faith on friends, on relatives, or on we could use that faith on a medication, and we believe that is going to help us, and sometimes it will, and sometimes it doesn't. So this faith is put upon things and individuals. We choose. It's fragmented. I have faith on my knowledge, my education. There's faith there. So I have faith on myself that I could accomplish it, right? Since we are choosing to individually apply this kind of faith, we are going to find disappointment really quick. But how and why? Because friends are going to let us down sooner or later. There are going to be some relatives that are going to let us down as well. We are going to find disappointments in some medicines. This faith is really limited. It's hard to find direction in life with this faith because we don't know how or who will honor it. This is the faith that may get us into marriage too. When we find ourselves getting married, we may go into this marriage with this kind of faith. And you will see it a lot. Because what happens after a betrayal in a marriage? You lose complete faith in that person, right? That's the primal faith. That's the faith that we individually apply to that person. So that faith is really limited. That faith will not let you strive further, find happiness. You will find segments, you will find bursts of happiness here and there, but not completely fulfilled. The other kind of faith, it's a historical faith. A faith that grew by reading about Jesus. A faith that grew by reading about great men in the Bible. This faith wants to follow the path of these great men. You read about the path they took. So this kind of faith wants to follow the same path, and it's not wrong. But it can't follow that path. Why? Why can it follow the path? It cannot completely follow the path of these great men. Because let's analyze this for a minute. Let's go back a couple of pages. All these great men didn't have a historical faith. Abraham didn't have a historical faith. Job didn't have a historical faith. How is that possible? Because Abraham didn't have a Bible to go by. Job didn't have a Bible to go by. Moses didn't have a Bible to go by. He eventually got the commandments, but he didn't start with the Bible. The Apostle Paul didn't start with the Bible. Jesus didn't go by the Bible. Jesus established a new way that God wanted from the people. But see how that new way was rejected by so many? Why? Because they didn't have that faith, the one that it's ideal for to accept the new teachings of the Lord that he brought. The historical faith only is nourished by reading about greatness. I'm going to say it again. Historical faith is only nourished by reading about greatness. But when a peril or a disappointment or we see an atrocity, this faith loses its luster really quick because it's nurtured only by the past. Yes, because you're reading about something that happened. You're reading about something historical. You're reading about something that happened at one point. So that faith tends to go back to the past. But it doesn't go forward. All the great men we've read about in the Bible didn't get their faith by looking at the past. Never. They always were moving forward, always their vision forward, always pursuing something, right? Not retracting or stepping back or looking at the past. This is the faith that God has given to this man. And that faith is the real faith of God, not a historical faith or a primal faith. It's the faith of God. We are not born with this faith. Only God gives this faith. So only those that with a sincere heart wanted to follow Jesus Christ, because not all of them did. Not all of them did. That was a distinguishing factor right there. That only a few had the real faith of God. The rest didn't. That's why they didn't follow him. Remember when Jesus says, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This is only possible with the true faith of God, the ideal faith, not with a primal faith or a historical faith. His yoke is easy and the burden is light when you have this kind of faith in you. This faith will not disappoint us. This faith will not betray us or dissuade us. Why? Because the Lord is not human to betray us. People may not keep their promises, but the Lord will. When you have this faith in you, your mindset changes. Your perspective changes. Your wisdom and knowledge is elevated. Your understanding of life also is awakened. Your patience is increased. Tolerance is increased. Compassion is increased. You yourself start to understand gratitude, loyalty, faithfulness. But how? Because you start living it every day under God's enlightenment. Yes, you start living it every day under God's enlightenment. You will not be moved. It says, "For he shall be as the tree planted by the waters, and that spreads out his roots by the river. And when the heat comes, he will not be afraid. His leaves will continue to be green." See the interpretation there? When you have this type of faith, God considers you that tree that is planted by the river. That no matter if around you turns into a desert, your leaves are always going to be green because you're by the river. What is that desert? That desert is perils. That desert is sadness. That desert is turmoil. That desert is persecution. That desert is hatefulness around us and everything. But that tree will never be moved. Only if you have this faith. And ask God to give you this faith. Ask God to remove the primal faith or the historical faith and turn it into the real faith that will make his yoke easy for me, that will make my cross easy to carry. The cross gets heavy when I don't have this faith. The cross gets so heavy for me that I cannot bear it when I don't have this faith. This is with the faith of God. So keep that in mind, folks. Thank you for joining me today. Till next time.